Hi folks, Leigh Farnell here, leading your best life. Today we have a fantastic guest, Jodie Forlonge, and Jodie and I know each other from our pod squad swimming, but she's told me so many wonderful stories, inspiring, scary, the whole works. I thought we have to do a podcast to talk about this. Jodie, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, Dr. Jodie, isn't it?
It is Dr. Jodie, yes.
Dr. Jodie. But Dr. Jodie, before we get to the doctor, let's go back. Tell me the Jodie Forlonge story. Where has Jodie come from to get to where she is today? And I'm sure it's a long and winding road, but give me whatever version length you want to give me.
Perfect. I'll give you a fairly short version because it's a very long story. But I was actually born in Sydney, but grew up right on the far north coast of New South Wales, right up on the Queensland border. So
beautiful.
Go the Blues. Come state of origin time, always
only just you're that close to Queensland.
I am close to Queensland, but I'm a blue blood.
Okay.
I left high school thinking that I would go into the medical sort of area all through high school, but I left there and joined the military of all things. Joined the Navy first. Not many people know that about me. Did 2 years in the Navy and then transferred across to the Army. I did a degree, Geography and Information Systems. So I started in the Signals Corps in the Army. And then after a couple of years decided, no, I'm definitely going to go and do medicine. I was working on a project down in Melbourne when I went to the Avalon Air Show and saw a number of my classmates flying at the Avalon Air Show. And I literally said to them, you guys have the coolest job ever. And one of the boys said to me, well, why don't you fly? And I said to him, I've just decided I'm going to go and do medicine. So I'm going to start studying for the GAMSAT and I'm going to sit the GAMSAT this year. And he said to me, Jodie, if you fly now, you can go and do medicine later on in life. But if you do medicine now, you are never going to get to fly. So work out which path you want to do. And so I applied to fly about a week later. Probably 2 to 3 weeks after that, I was on, I'd done my aptitude training. About maybe 2-3 weeks after that, I was on flight screening. And within a couple of months of my original decision, I was actually on pilot's course with the military.
Wow.
The pilot's course is an 18-month course. We started in Tamworth. We started with 26 pilots. We finished with 6.
Wow.
And I ended up on Blackhawks in the Army.
Wow.
So flew Blackhawks for a while. Number of tours in there, Middle East and South Pacific, couple of different areas. And then decided that it was time. It was time for me to go and sit the GAMSAT. So while I was working as a pilot, I went and started studying the subjects that I needed to fly, to do medicine. Sat the GAMSAT, passed that, decided to go to the military and say, look, I'm going to do medicine. You can either sponsor me or I need to get out because I need to go and do this. So they sponsored me. And I studied at Notre Dame in Fremantle, loved it, best decision of my life. I'd only been over here in Perth for maybe 6 weeks before I decided that this was my lifelong place to stay. And did medicine, became a GP, and then discharged from the military in 2018. That's my career. That's the career part of me.
So the military were happy to sponsor you. Wasn't there some kind of commitment to stay on longer to get their money's worth back? Yeah.
There was, yep. And I started that process. Did a couple of years in the hospital system, applied for GP, got onto the GP training program, and then completed that program. Still while continuing to pay off my time. And then I ended up getting medically discharged from the military.
Wow, what a journey. Now, you talked to me about the Blackhawk training or the pilot training That alone, because were you the first female pilot?
No,
What was that?
I was the third female Blackhawk pilot, and about the sixth ever female pilot that the Army had ever had.
Wow, wow. And were they welcoming? Were they welcoming of females into that corps?
They were. On a lot of occasions, you felt overwhelmed.
What?
On a lot of occasions, you felt very alone.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the deployments I went on, I was sort of one of very few females. But on other occasions, it was like you had, 30 brothers all of a sudden. When you went out, you were always looked after. So they did look after me that way as well.
Wow. So and sporting wise, clearly you're like your sport. So tell me about your sporting background.
Yep. I grew up swimming and surf lifesaving. And so won numerous state awards and made numerous Australian finals. Gave up swimming when I went to the Defence Force and started playing rugby union.
Wow.
And then played up at the national level for rugby union as well. And then when I was flying, I had to give that up because you kind of have to get wrapped up in cotton wool, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I continued because I had been rowing surf boats. So I was in one of the first female surf boat crews that Australia had. One of. It was very, very few. We used to race the men. We used to race against the under 18 junior boys. And then I came across to Northcote over here and started rowing here as well. A couple of years ago, I decided to start swimming again when I became really good mates with Kat Porter, whom I think you're going to speak to at some stage.
Yeah.
And so Kat and I did our first duo across to Rottnest in 2019. And then we did another one last year before doing a tandem solo this year.
Wow. What a team. You two, you go up and down that coastline every morning pretty much.
We sure
so that's
do.
Kat and Jodie. Yeah, up and down the coast together. That's good. So if I was to say to you, Jodie, Dr. Jodie, what motivates you?
Life motivates me. The people around me motivate me a lot. I do believe in leading your best life. I do believe that. And I believe in living an authentic life. If you don't like something, then change it. If you have made a goal, if you have achieved that goal, then make a new one and keep on going and keep on pushing. And if you don't like what path you're on, then change that path and go for something else.
Mm-hmm. And what about this on that resilience, bouncing back, in terms of staying mentally healthy? What do you do? And have you had ups and downs, and have you dealt with them in any particular way?
I have absolutely had ups and downs, particularly being the only female when I was flying, because there was no other female pilots in my squadron. Sometimes you felt bullied. Sometimes you felt left out. You had to build resilience towards that. And I used to joke around and say between 7:30 and 4 Monday through Friday that I was half male. And then outside that time, I'd be a female again and could be myself. I had to blur the boundaries without compromising myself and compromising my own morals and values. I had to sort of, if someone was making a joke, I had to kind of go, I know they're making a joke. Not my kind of joke, but I know they're making a joke, things like that. Failures, yes, I had a few failures in my life, maybe 2, and they were both extremely hard to take. But they were failures at the time that also became goals, and I achieved those goals in the end. because I decided to change what I was doing, to accept that failure, change my method, go again and fight again and make it to the end.
Oh, so you turn the negative to a positive, the old turn the lemon into lemonade.
Correct.
So I mean, sometimes one of the techniques is essentially to go, well, how do I turn this setback, or how do I turn this negative to a positive? What were some of the questions or the dialogue you had with yourself to bounce back or turn the negative to a positive?
Yeah, I absolutely. One of the issues I had was there was one of the exams that I had to do for GP, and a lot of people fail this exam first up, and it's actually very hard. And since I failed that exam and decided to sit it again, I had to change my study method and change what I was doing at the time. And since that time, I've been able to mentor other people that have also failed their specialty exams and trying to decide whether they sit them again or do they move on to something else. Because being a type A personality is very hard. Once you fail once, you feel like a failure. And so it's about saying to yourself, this is a very hard exam. My life at the time was not conducive to being able to pass that exam. I had a lot of external things going on. So what could I change? That was the positive that I took, because it was steps that I needed to actually change my life at the time, not just my study program, but the way I was living life.
Right. So so isn't it funny how life works like that? That what seems like a setback is in fact a tap on the shoulder to say you actually need to change, not just in regard to the exam, but change your life.
Correct. That is exactly the way that I took it. And I changed the people around me as well. So
The
I
environment.
made sure that I kept positive people around me. I made sure that I kept the people that I needed that helped lift me up, go from there. And I had people around me that some days my mental health had hit rock bottom at times. And I had people getting me out of bed to go swimming training and things. And I used swimming training in the end as a means to help me with my mental health, give me my mindfulness when I swim. It's all about me. There is no one else. You swim with a group of fantastic people and you have coffee with those people after, and that's the social aspect of it. But when you're in the water, it's just you and your brain and your body, and what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you achieve? That's how I see it.
Mind control, or mind, as you say, managing the mind. So just on that, what are some of the mental exercises? Again, did the Army teach you any of this stuff? But what are some of the mental exercises over the time that you've done to help manage your mind?
Yep. So I try and practice what I preach as well. And that's been pretty big for me. The Army does teach you, when it's giving you all of your leadership subjects and you're going through all those courses, they teach you how to practice mindfulness. They teach you how to practice resetting as many times as you need to, depending on where you are and what you're doing. I try and practice mindfulness at least twice a day. And I also try and encourage my patients to do the same thing. And you can do it in different ways. You can sit, I tell my patients, my students in particular, when you get home from school, grab a cup of tea, grab a water, grab anything, sit outside, use all of your senses to try and describe something. You might be able to smell the flowers in a tree. You might be able to hear the leaves rustling. And I call it the 5 of 5. It was actually a psychologist that taught me this. And reset your brain, because when you're using all of your senses to describe something, you can't think of anything else. It's true mindfulness. You're thinking of one thing and one thing only. And I find that really works. Fantastic.
And of course, we say the breathing is so good in terms of, concentrating on breath is such a powerful thing to do, because again, once you focus on breath, you can't be thinking of next week or tomorrow or what you're worrying about. So the power of breath. Have you ever used any of that kind of stuff, or do the Army people talk about that?
They absolutely do talk about it. I do use breathing as much as I can, particularly good when I'm talking to my patients, or, if you're giving a brief to people, if you're in a meeting, you can't just get up and leave. you know, you can't just stop what you're doing, but you can always practice your breathing. So it's something that I can do whilst I'm still working. It's something that I can do no matter what I'm doing. And I do try and do that when I'm swimming as well. I try and practice my breathing, you know, breathing. I'm a bilateral breather. So breathing every 3 strokes and not getting into the habit of going back to one side every 2 strokes. And because that's almost like hyperventilating then. So it's very much that I practice as much as I can.
And what about talking of discipline and routines? What does a day in the life of Dr. Jodie look like? Hang on, something's happened. Are we dropping out?
Interesting that you say this, because I have. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I think so. Yep. It's
Yep.
I'll edit that. We're at about whatever minute. I don't even know what minute. We'll come back to that. But anyway, so yeah, what does a day in the life of Dr. Jodie look like?
Okay, so normally I would get up 4:45, 5 o'clock, and do some sort of exercise. If it's not swimming, then I'm currently learning to ride a bike so that I can. My next challenge being the Busso 100, trying to. Yeah. So I try and do some sort of exercise, helps me get going for the rest of the day. From there, I'll start work no later than 8 o'clock, either in my clinic or in theatre, because I do surgical assisting as well as GP work. My day usually doesn't finish until about 7 o'clock each night at work. So from there, I come home, a bit of mindfulness if I can. Sometimes just taking my dog for a walk is what I need, or what I use for my mindfulness. Dinner, and then reports, investigations, a bit more work if I need to, or I sit. Sometimes I try and read, sit and have dinner, and then prepare for bed.
What time do you normally hit the sack?
I have actually changed. This was one of the big things that I needed to change in my life. I used to go to bed roughly midnight most
Oh my
nights.
God.
Yeah. Yep.
It's 5 hours sleep, less than 5 hours sleep.
Yes, it was not sustainable. And it was one of the big things that I've changed in my life. So now I have an alarm. I set an alarm. It goes off every night at 9:30. So it says to me that if I haven't started my night routine, then I have to drop whatever I'm doing. I drop and I am in bed by 10.
Nice work. That's interesting. An alarm to actually go to bed. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, my rule is roughly 9 o'clock. I'm aiming to be in bed by 9 because I'm set. My alarm goes off at 4:30. Because I'm now doing 20 minutes of meditation before I come down the beach in the morning, you know.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, but that's just on that. Are you much of a reader? Do you read books? What books are you reading at the moment, if anything, or listening to?
I do try and read. I've got an entire bookcase up here. I'm actually reading a book called Effervescence.
Okay. What's that about?
It literally is about having a look at when you're at your deepest, darkest moments, you're still emulating some life, some light. And it's a bit like the fish right down in those darkest points of the depths of the sea, and they have their own light.
Yes. So
it's not really a self-help book, but it's just it's a book that someone it's a book that 2 of my mates actually had both read and said it was an incredible book. So I just started reading it. Yeah. And it's
word of mouth.
Really is it's a very good book. Yeah.
That's good. So and do you read that at night before you go to sleep, or when do you read that?
I do try and read at night before I go to sleep because it makes sure I've not got any screens on. It's I try and practice good sleep hygiene. So even if I am going to bed at random times, or I'm struggling to sleep because of what I've been doing that day, because sometimes the day's so busy your brain keeps going. So I try and use that to stop and slow down.
Wow, that's fantastic. And let's go back some of those conversations we talk about. Sometimes a conversation can change your life. And here, that one conversation of why don't you fly? And that conversation of if you don't do it now, you can do medicine later. The power of those mentoring conversations that literally in one question, one 2 sentence conversation, you change your life, and it does change your life in that instance. Tell me about some of the mentoring conversations over the years. Obviously, that's one of them, but people who've been mentors to you and things that have resonated with you in terms of mentoring conversations.
Yep. I do try and look at those sorts of conversations all the time. And sometimes it's someone that you wouldn't necessarily see as a mentor as a person, but because you've either just met them or it's someone that's just walked into your life and it's just something that they say. And I try and take little snippets from people every conversation.
Yeah.
I know I've had numerous conversations down having coffee after swimming, and there's a few of us down there that talk about, sort of leading your best life and what you can do to make changes in your life, and what you can do to make changes at work in particular. And I have had to do that, and I've had to take that on board. So I actually have had many a conversation with one of the other GPs that I work with in my practice, and he's also a long distance swimmer, and he has talked to me about how he slows down and how he doesn't take away his patients' problems, because you can't take them on board. You can help them with their problems but not take them on board. So that was a big thing for me, because I was really taking a snippet from here, there, and coming home and really feeling what my patients were feeling at the time, and struggling and stressing about my patients. So it was about letting them do their own thing, but trying to help them when they were with me, but moving on to the next thing.
Yes, psychologists, I think, call that detached concern. I'm concerned, but I'm not giving you my heart and soul, because otherwise you walk out the door with it and I'm left empty or exhausted. Not only that, I have to deal with another patient, another person. So that level of detachment, is that what you're talking about?
Correct. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I struggled with that when I was a junior GP. I struggled with that because I would burn myself out.
Yeah.
I would work until at least 9:30 in my clinic every night. And then I would come home and get on remotely and write notes and things like that. So that I really struggled with that. It's a similar sort of thing when you're flying. I did have a mentor when I was flying, and he was amazing for me. And he taught me how to move on when I'd made a mistake in the aircraft, because you can't fly. We call it flying, hanging onto the stabilizer at the back of, if you're at the back of the aircraft, you are too far behind.
Right.
You need to be at the front. And the only way that you can do that is to drop whatever mistake you've made, accept it, let it go, move on to the next thing, and make sure that everything's okay up the front. So I've kind of developed a way for myself to be able to take snippets from people that I'm talking to at all points in life, and try and meet people that I find inspiring, to try and get them more into my life. And I think
just on that, who are some of the people over the years you found inspiring, or you've kind of leveraged off to help you keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, my GP supervisor, when I was going through my training program, she was excellent. She really encouraged me. She helped me. She was there for me whenever I liked, whenever I needed. There's a number of people down at Pod Squad. Kat Porter is most definitely a very inspiring person.
Yeah.
Her and I have had many a frank conversation, with life in general. Her coming from a very individualistic background. She played an individual sport. She had to work hard her entire life. And I always came from team sports. I came from a team environment in my work. Everything was about, you are only as fast as the slowest person. You are only as strong as the weakest link. You know, and I think that resonated to Kat when she hurt herself when we did our tandem this year. Because she could see and she heard me say that I wasn't getting out of the water, or wasn't letting her get out of the water. And I didn't want to go it alone. We signed up together, and that's what we were going to do together. So
there was no quitting.
There was no quitting. I didn't let her quit. She only wanted to quit because she thought that she was slowing me down.
Right.
And
right.
I had to explain to her that that's what I come from. I come from a team environment where there is no slow. There's only as fast as what you're going.
Yep. In that case, that was the Rottnest solo. You were doing it in tandem using the same boat. And at about what mark of the 19.7K did she have an injury that was starting to really affect her?
She had an injury at the 7K mark, but she didn't tell anyone.
Oh, yeah.
She only told us at the 12K mark where she'd slowed right down.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sort of turn around and go back to her. And she said, that's it, I'm done. I can't keep going. My left shoulder is gone. I've completely gone. It's weak. And I said, are you in pain? And she said, no. And I said, are you cold? She said, no. I said, are you seasick? She said, no. And I said, okay, crack on. I'll see you at the next feed. We'll keep on going. I don't care how slow we go. We're just going to slow down. And when you get to the point where you actually can't go, that's when you can get out. And she said to me, no, I'm slowing you down too much. I need to get out. And I said to Kat, like Kat and I have swum together for 3 years now, side by side, every single day. Every time one of us is in the pool, the other one is behind. Every time one of us is in the ocean, the other one is beside. So I know what she's like. And I know that I nickname her the Beast. That's her nickname, because she goes into beast mode. She literally goes into beast mode. And so that's what she did. And she just cracked on, and we went as slow as what she needed to go to make it.
The Beast. Amazing. And just on that, let's just deal with that, because, you know, people won't necessarily know Kat, but I'm thinking of a situation where we had that Australia Day event, and a lady had said in a speech, but can you maybe, we won't say who the person was, but if you just say the speech and present the context of, you know, Kat's position, condition, you know, what she's got, so that and you taking a stand, which I thought was just incredible that you did. So just share that story.
Yeah, there was a speech that was made, and Kat just happened to be in the audience, and this lady had kind of said that along the lines of people with disabilities are less people, basically. And that was where she had come from. She'd grown up with that sort of belief. And Kat's disability is actually called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. Took me a long time to get my mouth around that. And it means that she doesn't have use of her legs, so she walks on crutches. Her legs, the joints are fibrosed, so to speak, so that because they're really stiff and don't.
Was she born like that or developed?
She was born like that. It's a congenital disease, which means that when you're born with that disease. Or Kat calls it a disability, so I'll call it that. And it's something she's really introduced me to the world of disability and NDIS and ACROD and all of those things that are available to my patients that you just don't realize. But I've also got to watch Kat, how she moves, what she puts herself through to just live life on a daily basis. And she is not a lesser person. Anyone that knows Kat would know that she is not a lesser person.
No, she's a superstar.
She is a superstar, an amazing person. And I remember when this lady said this, I turned around and looked at Kat, and Kat's jaw had just sort of dropped, and I could see that Kat was offended as what I was.
It hit her.
And Kat would never say anything. She's too nice. You know, she doesn't want to impose on people.
Could you say to people, Kat, of course, has won how many world championships and gold medals and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, she's a triple Paralympian. She's got 16 world records under her belt for swimming. She broke her own world record in the Beijing 2008 Olympics, 100 meters backstroke, to win gold and get a new world record at the same time. So when I say she's a beast, she's
well, you tell the story of where she turned in that race. Where did she turn?
She off the blocks, she was 8th out of 8. She was dead last because she can't push off the blocks. Everyone else that's in that S7 class could push off the blocks. They had power in the legs. Kat swims basically dragging her legs.
Yes.
So she pushes off the blocks last. And by the time she turns at the 50-meter mark, she turned in about fourth, close to 5th. And then she stays at 4th until about 25 meters to go. And then she just comes home like an absolute freight train. And she wins by over a body length.
Like a beast. That's when she is the beast.
She is a beast. There is no doubt about it. I can't even keep up with her. No. She got me out of bed so many times. She would climb my stairs in my 2-story house on her crutches, rip down my doona, get me out of bed to make me go swimming. You know, when I was just not in a great place, and I will be forever thankful for that. But I remember this lady at the Australia Day speeches saying that people with a disability were less, and she was talking about the Special Olympics, and the Paralympians have a real issue with this because the Special Olympics are not an international athletic program. Anyone can do the Special Olympics, and this is where people get confused. Special Olympics are for an intellectual disability, not a physical disability.
Right.
And I spoke to Kat about it, and I said, look, we need to say something here. She needs to understand that what she has said is actually offensive to, you know, potentially other people in the crowd. And Kat kind of said, okay. And I said, mate, I'm going to come with you. And if you don't feel like talking, I'm going to talk for you, but I'm going to just explain to this lady that this is what she said, and this is what was offensive. And she actually took it very, very well when we told her. She just had no idea, because the culture that she'd grown up in, people with a disability are of a lesser person. And we just made her realize that people with a disability are exactly the same. In Australia, people with a disability are exactly the same. They can be whatever they want to be. And that's what I try and encourage my patients. Anyone with any sort of disability, you can be as much as you want to be. Yeah.
And of course, again, in that situation, as you say, that person, one, the lack of understanding around what's Special Olympics, what's Paralympics, as you say, and then secondly, in some cultures, people with disabilities are literally thrown on the scrap heap of life, versus, no, we want to help this person be the best they possibly can be as well. They have mind, heart, spirit, feelings, and as you say, in Kat's condition in particular, there she is, a super inspiration to so many people, in both, whether it be Paralympics and able-bodied people, just going, my God, this woman is incredible. I mean, I just swimming with her, when she's going, I can't keep up with her. She's just incredible, just incredible. And then you say guts is all hell, from the 7K mark onwards to then go another 12.7. And I think you helped carry her. I mean, it was just super inspirational on the beach that day. Yeah. The video of that day is just, talk about the Rocky movie, was just incredible. People played it over and over again. Absolutely fantastic.
It literally was like that. It was like that. I could stand up, and it was too deep for her to get her crutches at that point. Yes. But I could stand, it was less than waist deep. So I literally just picked her up, and she looked at me and said, carry me. I have nothing left. I have nothing left. Carry me. So I carried her to the point where her dad could come in and give her crutches. And that was the first time that her dad had got to see her finish because he'd always been a skipper.
Oh, I see.
And so he literally had tears in his eyes. And then we went back up over the ramp together, and that was it. It was amazing.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Let's just go on the other side for a second, where people with potential who don't realize that full potential. And I'm sure you've seen it in sport and in life and in the army and other cases. What have you observed as the common patterns of thinking or behavior or beliefs that stop people being as good as they possibly can be?
Yep. You do see it everywhere, and you do hear it everywhere. And it's people that don't believe in themselves will quite often have an excuse, and it'll be a new excuse all the time. And this is the way they feel. And you feel like just sort of stopping them and going, no, don't let that shouldn't stop you from doing what you want to do. Like there's a young man at Pod Squad, and when I first met him, he said he wanted to win the Rottnest Channel swim. But then he found out that there was a couple of other guys that were going to do the race, and so therefore he wasn't going to win. And I said to him, why can't you win? Why can't you win that race? And he said, because those guys are doing it. And I said, why can't you be faster than them? You've got all the bits and pieces. You've got everyone behind you. You're doing all your training. You have no idea what's going to happen on the day. You have no idea what's going to happen between now and then. So if you train to win that race, there is no reason for you not to win that race. And I find it's an excuse, and people they kind of always have an excuse, but it's because they don't believe in themselves. So it's about changing that belief. The best of the best go out to get something because they are going to do it. There is nothing stopping them. They are going to do it, and I am going to win this, or I am going to make this goal.
Yeah. It reminds Richard Bach has one of the quotes says, argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. And so, of course, if he's saying, oh, I can't win it because they're in it, he's just put a ceiling on, as you said, and because what you're doing there, we call it BS belief system, but it is a bullshit belief system, a bullshit disempowering story. And only a good friend or a good coach and have an ecosystem, we call it, what's it called? It's called ruthless honesty, or something to that effect, where we got to agree to cut the bullshit. And if you hear me saying things that are holding myself back, you have the right to challenge me and call me on my own bullshit, which is such a critical rule in any trusting high performance ecosystem, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. People that are in a high performance role of any description, career, sport, life, they strive for that dopamine reward. And they're always going for the little rewards to get to that big reward. And once the way that they tell themselves that they're not going to be able to do it is to try and stop themselves being disappointed, and for their mental health to go backwards, they have to have an excuse as to why that didn't happen. But if you can cut that out and say, right, you don't need all these little rewards. You don't need that. You've got a goal to strive to. Go and get it. Make it happen yourself.
It's almost like one of my mental T-shirts. Call me. You have permission to call me on my own bullshit. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So important. So important. So Jodie, I'm going to wind this up shortly, but is there anything that I haven't asked you you'd like me to ask you in terms of getting the best out of Dr. Jodie today?
Oh, something that you haven't asked me, apart from when I told you that the Busso 100 was my next goal, was kind of like, how do you keep on going?
Yes. Well, how do you keep on going? What motivates you to keep on going? When's enough enough?
Never. The answer to that is never.
I thought I'd push your button with that.
The reason I say that,
Yes.
it doesn't always have to be this major goal.
Yep.
It doesn't always have to be big in your life.
Mm.
Someone's goal might be, and my goal at one stage was to slow down my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I was living, the way I was working, I'd thrown myself into my work. I was burning out. I had to slow down. So that became a major goal to me.
Mm.
And once I'd kind of got that into perspective, that's when Kat and I started to prepare for solo.
Mm.
So I'm doing the Busso 100 next year as a goal. Now, that's not going to be a race for me. That's just something new in my life.
Just tell me what the Busso 100, what is that made up of? 100 what?
Oh, it's 100 kilometers. So it's
100 kilometers of what?
It's just under the half Ironman. So it's a 2K swim, an 80K ride, and a 18K run.
Massive.
Now, I can't ride a bike very well, and I certainly don't run very well. So these are things new in my life that I'll be doing. Post that, because once I make that, because I will be making that.
Yes.
2025, we've got a group sorted. We've started a group. It's called the 2025 in 2025.
Oh, yes.
We'll be doing the Rottnest solo and then the ultra marathon for the Port to Pub 25. And so that's my next goal. And that'll be with Kat. We're going to do both of those tandem, make both of those.
Wow. No, you scared me when you challenged me with that as well. I immediately, all my bullshit stories come up. Look how old I'll be. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Look how old I'll be to pull that kind of bullshit. Anyway, well, you've got me scared now. You've even mentioned that again. So we've all got to deal with these breakthroughs. As you know, I'm going to do a solo this year on my own, and then I'll do a duo with my son in the Port to Pub this year. So who knows what the possibilities of the following year are. But somewhere in there, we talk about process and being in the moment. And so, in regard to swimming or almost anything now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in the sense of I just want to be in the moment and enjoy that moment. I've just got into the Vedic meditation and the breathing, but that whole idea of the precious present moment. So even when we're doing a 2K swim and we count 10 100s and I count people off who's doing number one, who's doing number two, I'm only thinking of the next stroke almost. I'm not go, what's going to happen at number 8? I don't give a shit at number 8. It's like this stroke and this breath is where I'm at now. So that whole idea of enjoying the moment as distinct from, and of course in that channel swim, you don't want your mind getting too far ahead because it's just like, no, it's this stroke, I might look forward to the next feed or the next drink station, but other than that, I'm not going too far ahead. What about you?
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. So when I talk about goals and setting goals, and I'm talking about 2025, they're goals. But what allows you to live the best life that you're living is the journey that you take towards those. And Jordan McGrath is the perfect person for that. He talks all the time about it's about the journey. It's about what you're doing when you're swimming, taking each stroke, enjoying the moment, improving your stroke. If that's what you want to do on that 2K swim, then that's what you do for that whole 2K swim is just improve your stroke, live inside your brain at the time. And if that's mindfulness for you, because that's what you need on that day, you need a little bit of mental health. So it's just you and the water and you look at all the fish underneath. And that's what you do, and that's what gets you through that. Then I 100% agree that it's always about the journey of how you get there.
And I'm thinking as we're talking, I mean, being in the army and doing all the things you've done, Sadhguru, one of the mentors that I've studied over the last couple of years, talks about death, the role of death in life, in that when you've been around death, you realize we're all heading in that direction, that it puts so much more energy and vitality into life. So like this year, I had to scatter my mate's ashes with a group of others. We all scattered his ashes. Everybody took a turn in sharing the ashes out of the ocean. And so in your case in the army, you must have seen death. And therefore, when you've seen that, what that then does in terms of you going, I'm going to make the most out of the life and the remaining days I have. Comment on that, your thoughts on that.
Yep. I did see a lot of death in both of my careers. I see death every day now. And I see a lot of people, and I have to tell a lot of people also that they're going to die. So that part of my day is awful. And I certainly reflect on that every single day. And I take that on board, and I think, do you know what? Life is too short. I need to live now. I can't live when I'm dead. I can't wait for something to happen. I need to be able to make it happen myself. And that has been a big part of me doing what I've been doing and living how I've been living.
I certainly know in my case, I think my days and moments have got richer, having, had to, scatter those ashes, to know, oh, we're all heading, that's where we're going. You're going to be a pile of ashes one day. So that's why every day and every moment, certainly when we're out swimming or in the group, the giggles and all the beautiful people that we have in the group. But even then, this morning I was running a workshop with a sales team here in Perth of enjoying every moment, as the thing from, oh my God, there's this, then there's this other thing I've got to do, then there's this other thing. It's like, no, I don't let my brain get too far ahead, because no, treasure this in the context that one day I'm going to be a pile of ashes somewhere, So I was just thinking, as you say, in your case, both army-wise and now as in the medical world, and of course, that's the other thing about death is that, people know other people die, but most people don't focus on, hang on, but no, you're dying too, mate. You're going to go too. So put your life in the context of your going as well. It's not everyone else around you goes and you're going to be around here. No, you're going to be a pile of ashes one day as well. So it really does add vitality to life. What do you say?
It really does. It really does. And I think it's about the good thing about that, or, thinking about death is not nice. But if you allow yourself to kind of go, well, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing now. So make changes. You only have one life. You can only do what you can do. But the world is open to you at the time. So do what you want to do what you enjoy doing, and make the changes in your life to allow you to be happy. Because if you are happy with what you're doing, you will make any goal that you want to make.
Well, there's a woman in the surf club who who used to walk past us every morning and not even say hello. And in the last 2 or 3 weeks, she speaks and she's got a spring in her step. Hi, I'm doing this, I'm that. And I eventually said to someone, this is amazing, because this person would literally not even look at us. And she said, well, she's just changed jobs. Her job's changed and she's just so much happier with this job. You go, my God. And of course, there's thousands of people in that situation where their whole energy and attitude to life is shaped by the fact that they don't enjoy their job, the boss or the whatever it is. She's made a change. Talk about the French have a proverb: the forest shapes the tree. The environment shapes the organism. And here she is. You wouldn't even think she was the same person, because clearly she's not the same person now. Her ecosystem's changed, and she's a different person. Have you experienced that kind of thing, or seen people in that situation?
I see it all the time in my job, because people come and see me with mental health and things like that, and they're having an awful time at work, and we talk about them leaving, what they can and can't do, what they feel like they want to do, all of that sort of stuff. And the next time they see you, Jodie, I quit my job, or Jodie, I made the changes. I went and saw the boss and said, look, I don't like this, or I'm struggling with this, and my boss was absolutely fine with it. So they do become a different person. I also have people ask me all the time, Jodie, why would you give up flying to go and be a GP? And I say, I always wanted to be a GP. I always wanted to be a doctor. Flying was just, for me, I loved flying. I loved it. It was an exciting job. It was amazing. I got to fight for my country. Amazing. But I always wanted to be a doctor, and I knew I was going to do it. I just didn't know when I was going to do it. So that was a major life change, and people don't understand it, because I've gone from a really exciting high pressure job to being a GP, but people don't realize how high pressure GP can be as well.
Well, talking of high pressure, you reminded me of the time you told me, besides the fact that somebody was going to add a rocket launcher and was about to take a rocket at you, was the flying with night goggles in the Blackhawks. Just for the people who may have seen it on the TV or thought, just paint that picture for me again of flying in formation at night at whatever speed with night goggles on. Tell me what that's all about.
Yeah, that is the hardest thing that you will do in a helicopter, is flying formation on NVGs.
What's
when
NVG?
NVGs, night vision goggles.
Oh, night vision goggles. Okay.
Yep. So when you're flying on NVGs, you can only see, it's like a 40% of what you normally would see. So you've got no peripheral. It's completely blacked out. And so if there's no real moon or not a lot of moonlight, if you are looking straight ahead and kind of try and sort of move your eyes to look out the periphery, it's black. It's completely black. But as the flying pilot, when you're on NVGs, you don't look at anything else but that aircraft in front of you.
And how close in front is the aircraft in front?
So I want to say it's really close, because it always feels really close. And it is. It's usually like two widths of the helicopter rotor away. That's it.
Wow.
So you'll be flying at about 120 knots, and you'll be, as a flying pilot, putting their rotor blade into the vision of your NVGs. So it goes to half, and you don't look at anything else, because every single time they move, you need to move with them, because you don't know when they're going to turn or anything like that. The other pilot that's in with you, they make sure, and the two load masters that you have at the back, they make sure someone doesn't run into you, and they make sure you're not running into the ground.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really intense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's intense. And of course, there's been the occasion where the Blackhawks have hit the ground, with the SAS guys. I don't think the Americans lost some people in the recent exercises in the Blackhawks. So you're literally dealing with life and death. So just on that, when you finish the flight, how do the sympathetic nervous system is clearly going to be working overtime, the fight or flight response. How do you wind down? Hopefully it's not alcohol at that point, but how do Blackhawk Helicopter people wind down, pilots?
We always kind of have a joke when we, on our walk back, like you'll do the sort of the high five, like Top Gun or something stupid like that, and have a bit of a joke with everyone. And you do, if there is any sort of an incident, you stop and debrief at that point before anyone goes home that night. You make sure that everyone's okay. You write up the incident and you look after that incident at that point in time.
Yeah.
If there's no incident, you kind of high five each other. You might sit and have a cup of tea, things like that. Generally, no, not at that point. You won't have alcohol, because it's usually like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And then you kind of make sure that everyone knows what's happening the next day, all of that sort of stuff, just to kind of, it slows everything back down, gets back into a normal work cycle, and then everyone goes home after that. Yeah,
because you got me thinking. A friend of mine put me onto a video, I think the Blue Angels, the American stunt pilots.
Oh, yeah.
And they have in their debrief and feedback, they call it safeties. When something goes wrong, they call it a safety. So again, in clearly a high performance environment, how you systematically give feedback or take feedback, and how you, as you say, resolve incidents, and essentially what you're saying is that incident needs to be resolved there and then, as distinct from going home, stewing on it, worrying about it, fretting about it. It's like let's close. In NLP we call it closing the loop. You want to close that loop rather than someone go home with an unresolved loop and let them. So I can just imagine, you know, the sympathetic nervous system's already up. They're already in fight or flight. If you didn't resolve it, you can just imagine the mind going home, catastrophizing, worrying, fretting even more. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's absolutely true. So, you know, not everything can be resolved at that point, but you resolve it enough to the point that, you know, everyone's safe, everyone's okay. Might be that the incident report is in, but there'll be an investigation on something if it's a serious incident. But that at that point, you know that everyone's okay and all of that sort of stuff. So you make sure if it's a particular person has done something, or if there's been a close incident, it's no one in particular's fault. You make sure that everyone that was part of that incident is okay, that the incident report is in, and that you know that at that point that systems are going to change.
Right. Yep. As a result of which you talk about in business, that the purpose of any stuff up, like we talk about even in sales, you know, if you didn't get it, which part of the process, which part of the system needs to be changed as a result of that result. We did what we say, use the right process, get the right result. Didn't get the right result, which part of the process either wasn't followed or needs to change. So every setback is an opportunity to improve the system, which I can clearly say you guys were doing.
Absolutely, because you kind of work out whether it's a personal or a systematic failure.
Yes, great. Yep. Was it the system wrong, or did the person not follow the existing system?
Correct.
Yeah. And therefore, and what can we learn about helping people follow the system?
Absolutely.
Hey, Jodie, we've covered a lot of great territory, not the least of which is those mental, why don't you fly? What about 1, 2, 4 words that changed your life? But you was, you know, but as again, other words of, you had the goal all along of being a doctor. And here you are now, as you say, when your best friend, the beast, the beast, and the goals that you have, and the daily routine. An athlete, as you know, I always call people athletes. I love the whole concept that, you know, we're all athletes. You know, as the guy that founded Nike said, you know, if you've got a body, you're an athlete. But really, if you've got a mind and a body and a spirit, you're an athlete. And you, in my world, you know, you have a responsibility to look after it, look after yourself, and be the best you possibly can be. Jodie, you're a role model, as is the beast, which I'll be talking to her, which she's coming back from Hawaii soon, I imagine.
I'm picking her up on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Well, I look forward to hearing her story when she gets back. Again, is there anything I haven't asked you before we wind up?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
It's been fantastic.
Jodie, fantastic, mate. I look forward to seeing you down the beach, and keep leading your best life, and you and the beast being inspirations.
Excellent. Thank you, Leigh. It's been fabulous talking to you.
Thanks, Jodie. See you soon.
No worries. Bye.
Bye-bye.